The air in sublevel 7 of the Kronos biotech facility was a sterile, recycled breath, smelling faintly of ozone and disinfected metal. For Kai Ashton, a brilliant but perpetually underpaid medical researcher, it was just another Monday. His latest assignment from the elusive Dr. Seraphina Vance was to decommission a piece of failed experimental tech deep within the facility's secret core. Target designation is Project Nocturne, Containment Unit V, the automated voice of his augmented reality glasses whispered. Protocol dictates complete thermal shutdown and data wipe. Kai scoffed, running a weary hand through his hair. Project Nocturne. Sounds like a rejected sci-fi movie title. The hallway ended abruptly in a massive reinforced steel door marked with runic symbols, not the typical clinical warnings. Kai felt a strange prickle of unease, a sensation his pragmatic, scientific mind immediately dismissed as poor ventilation. He bypassed the security panel with Vance's override code, and the door hissed open, revealing a chamber bathed in an unnatural pulsing red and blue neon glow. In the center of the room stood a single, monolithic cryopod. It wasn't the sleek, futuristic design Kai was used to. This one was crafted from dark, obsidian-like material, intricately carved with the same alien runes that adorned the door. Through the thick, icy glass, a silhouette was barely visible. Kai accessed the pod's interface on his tablet. The data was encrypted with pre-modern algorithms he'd never encountered. All he could read was a single, cryptic status line: stasis, active. Subject, Valerie Luna. Pact integrity, 100%. Valerie Luna? $300 years of cryosuspension? Kai murmured, his researcher instincts tingling despite his marching orders. Vance had told him this was a failed military experiment involving blood preservation. 300 years was impossible for human blood. He brought up the thermal shutdown sequence. The console flashed a series of warnings: critical pact disruption imminent. Subject harm possible. Kai hesitated. Despite Vance's insistence, his conscience warred with his employment contract. The image on the glass, a face of ethereal, terrifying beauty, seemed to watch him. "Look, I'm just following orders," he muttered and hit the execute button. The system didn't shut down, it rebelled. Instead of cooling, the pod began to heat rapidly. The blue lights turned an angry, blistering crimson. Steam hissed violently from the vents. The temperature reading shot past $100 degrees Celsius. "What the hell, Vance?" Kai cursed, scrambling to stop the process. He realized too late that the shutdown code was actually a deliberate overload command. Vance wasn't decommissioning the pod, she was forcing its inhabitant out. The glass of the pod shattered inward with an explosive burst of steam and crystallized blood. From the wreckage rose Valerie Luna. She was instantly arresting, tall, clad in antique dark leather armor that looked both ceremonial and battle-ready. Her skin was alabaster, her long silver blonde hair cascaded around her. But it was her eyes that seized Kai's breath. They were a terrifying, mesmerizing red, glowing with ancient fury and terrible hunger. She collapsed, weakly hitting the floor, a single deep, smoking wound visible on her side, a wound that had apparently been kept in stasis with her. Her breathing was shallow. Her centuries-long sleep had been a prison, and the forced awakening had cost her nearly all her strength. Where am I?" Her voice was a dry, rasping whisper, yet it resonated with an authority that chilled Kai to the bone. She looked at the modern lab equipment, the strange lights, and then, her glowing gaze fixed on the only source of warmth in the room, Kai Ashton. Her eyes narrowed to predatory slits. Valerie moved with a speed that defied physics. One moment she was on the floor, the next she was upon Kai, pinning him against the console with effortless strength. A low, guttural growl escaped her throat, a sound of pure, unadulterated primal hunger. Kai, paralyzed by fear and the sheer impossible reality of the situation, could only stare into those blood-red eyes. Then the pain. Her mouth clamped onto his neck, not savagely but with a terrifying precision. Two needle-sharp fangs pierced his skin, and Kai cried out, the world blurring into a red haze. He felt his life force, his blood, being drawn out fast, too fast. He thought, this is it. I shouldn't have touched the pod. But then the sensation changed. Just as the darkness threatened to consume him, the intense draining stopped. Instead of taking, she seemed to give. A strange, thick, warm liquid pulsed from her own mouth and into his open wounds. It wasn't blood, it was something else. Electric, fiery like liquid energy. A violent, chaotic torrent of images flooded Kai's mind. Swords clashing under a twin moon. A vast, moonlit battlefield. the cold, stone halls of an ancient fortress. A feeling of profound loss and betrayal. He saw her, Valerie, leading warriors, her face etched with a burden of immense responsibility. It lasted only a second, but it felt like $300 years. Valerie pulled away, her eyes fluttering. Her wound on her side was visibly steaming, healing rapidly. She looked down at Kai, her expression a mix of shame and necessity. "I needed sustenance to live, human," she rasped, her voice stronger now. "But I have given you the exchange. I have taken your life force to save my own, and in return, I have given you the pact." Kai stumbled back, clutching his neck. The puncture marks were gone, replaced by a dull, throbbing heat. He felt weak but strangely energized. He looked down at his hands, which were trembling. What did you do to me?" Valerie steadied herself, her eyes now the color of burnt amber, still supernatural but less predatory. "I did not kill you, Kai Ashton," she said, using his full name as if reading it directly from his mind. "I saved you as my code demands. Now your life is linked to mine. You are not just a man anymore. You are bound." Kai Ashton awoke with a gasp, his body drenched in cold sweat. He was lying on a makeshift cot in a hidden, dimly lit apartment, one of Kronos Biotech's forgotten safe houses. The throbbing on his neck was gone, replaced by a strange residual warmth, like a fading burn. He sat up, the vivid, chaotic images from the lab still churning in his mind. The ancient fortress, the clash of swords, the searing pain of betrayal. They hadn't been mere hallucinations. They were memories, deep-seated and raw, belonging entirely to someone else. Valerie Luna. He found Valerie sitting silently across the room. She was wearing a simple, dark tunic Kai recognized as part of a Kronos security uniform, looking impossibly regal even in stolen clothes. Her amber eyes fixed on him, assessing. "The fever has broken," she stated, her voice calm and controlled. "You survived the initial bonding. Few humans ever did." "Bonding?" Kai rubbed his temples, trying to process the impossible. "You drank my blood and then injected something into me. I saw your past. I felt $300 years of history." Valerie rose and walked toward him, her movements fluid and utterly silent. "You felt the Crimson Exchange. When a pureblood must take life force and then chooses to give a portion of their own, we do not kill. We forge a link. A pact. My memories, my echoes, are now imprinted on your neural pathways." "But why?" Kai demanded, his scientific training reeling from the absurdity. "Why not just kill me? You were strong enough." "My ancestors were warriors, not predators," Valerie said, a cold edge entering her voice. "We follow a code. Life taken must be repaid with life given. The debt is settled, but the connection remains. You now possess a fragment of my strength, my regeneration, and my senses. And yes, you will experience my world through your dreams." That night, Kai had his first real memory dream. He was no longer Kai. He was Valerie, young, perhaps just a princess, but one with nascent fangs. The air was crisp, scented with pine and snow. She was standing atop the battlements of a magnificent, gloomy medieval fortress, looking out at a forest shrouded in mist. Below, a small human village was visible. A sudden, terrifying wave of hunger washed over him or her, a hunger so profound it felt like a sickness. Valerie in the dream wrestled with it. She felt the conflict of her human mother's love and her vampire father's lineage. She slipped away on a lone hunt, driven by the urge to feed, but ultimately found a wounded stag instead of a human. The dream ended as Valerie fed on the animal, the metallic taste of blood overwhelming his senses. Kai woke up with the intense, animalistic hunger lingering in his stomach. He felt disoriented and scared. "What was that?" he whispered, his heart hammering. Valerie, who had been meditating, opened her eyes. "A childhood memory. My first struggle with the pureblood hunger. You felt what I felt, Kai. The hunger will come to you too as your body adapts to my blood. You must control it or it will consume your humanity." Kai tried to focus, clinging to his identity as a pragmatic medical researcher. He knew he needed to understand this biologically. He found a broken mirror in the safe house and looked at his reflection. His neck was clean, but when he focused his sight, the surrounding darkness seemed to pull back. He could see dust particles floating in the faint light, the intricate cracks in the ceiling. His vision was unnaturally sharp. Suddenly, a loud, high-pitched whine assaulted his ears. It was unbearable. He clamped his hands over his head, groaning. "What is that noise?" he cried out. Valerie didn't move. "That is the ultrasonic pulse of the security camera outside. A human cannot hear it. You can't. Your senses are heightening. They are a gift and a curse. The realization hit Kai with full force. He was not sick, he was changing. The exchange had gifted him supernatural abilities. This wasn't some fantasy, it was a terrifying new reality rooted in his biochemistry, a subject he suddenly knew infinitely more about, thanks to Valerie's memories. As the day progressed, Kai used his old, untraceable lab phone to check news reports related to Kronos Biotech. He immediately picked up on the fabricated story: a fire in Sublevel 7, a failure in experimental cryogenic preservation. Then a sudden wave of his own memories flashed, but they were tainted with a strange sense of malice. He saw Dr. Vance, his former mentor, in his mind's eye, but she wasn't smiling as she usually did. She was standing over a console, her face cold, her fingers typing in the code that overloaded the pod. Kai gasped. Vance? She didn't want to decommission Project Nocturne. She wanted to force you out. And she used me to do it. Valerie looked unsurprised. She has been tracking me for a long time. She knew the code. She knew the exchange would be a risk she could manage. She wanted to lure me out to study me. And she wanted to ensure that if I survived, I would need a vulnerable human to cling to. Valerie walked up to him, a heavy ancient pendant around her neck, a silver crescent moon. You, Kai Ashton, were the bait. But now you are a valuable subject to her. She will be looking for your blood samples next. She sees my pure blood strength in you and she is obsessed with controlling it. The memory Kai experienced now was clearer. Vance as a young girl, her face alight with an almost religious fanaticism, watching a man being strapped down for a blood infusion, all inside a hidden, sterile laboratory. Dr. Seraphina Vance wasn't just a CEO, she was a vampire hunter/researcher, determined to weaponize the Pureblood legacy. Kai looked from the horrifying memory to Valerie's intense gaze. She wants us both then. For an experiment. Valerie nodded slowly. And she will use everything in her power to find us. Her surveillance network is vast. We have very little time before she locates this safe house. Kai, the man of science, felt an unshakable sense of purpose. His life, his research, and his humanity were all on the line. He reached a decision. I'm a researcher, Valerie. I know her system. If we're going to survive, we need to counter her. Tell me everything about your code, your weaknesses, and what those damn symbols in the lab meant. We need to turn her network against her. The researcher had become a partner in crime, bound by blood, fear, and a shared enemy. The hidden safe house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage. Kai, his heightened senses constantly buzzing, could almost feel Dr. Vance's surveillance network tightening around them. He paced restlessly, his mind racing through possibilities. He knew Kronos Biotech's security protocols inside out. He had designed some of them. She won't send uniformed police, Kai stated, adjusting the stolen Kronos jacket that felt oddly light on his now stronger frame. Too much attention. She'll send her own private contractors, or maybe even Kronos's Special Projects Division. They're basically her private army. Valerie, perched silently on a windowsill, surveying the neon-lit cityscape below, nodded. Their methods will be swift and brutal. They will not hesitate to take you alive for study, and me for eradication. Her eyes, still the color of polished amber, held an ancient weariness. But they will not find us so easily. Suddenly, Kai's new hearing picked up a faint, rhythmic thump-thump-thump from the distant sky. It was too low for a normal human to perceive. His gut clenched. Helicopters, he whispered. Multiple units. They're already here. Valerie's gaze sharpened. Then we move. Now. Just as the distant thumping grew louder, a series of precise, coded taps echoed on the reinforced steel door of the safe house. Valerie turned, a ghost of a smile touching her lips. They are here, she said, but her tone was not of fear but anticipation. My own sentinels. The door burst open, not inward from an attack, but outward as it was expertly disengaged. Two figures stepped into the neon glow of the apartment. The first was Lyra, slender and agile, with long dark hair pulled back in a severe braid. She was armed with a high-tech bow and quiver, her movements as graceful as a huntress. The second was Jax, a mountain of muscle, a silent behemoth with a scarred face, carrying a modified assault rifle that looked like a toy in his massive hands. Both wore minimalist tactical gear, sleek and deadly. Lyra's eyes immediately found Valerie. My lady, she said, bowing her head briefly. Her gaze flickered to Kai, filled with suspicion. Who is this human? He bears the pact, Valerie stated, stepping forward. He is bound to me. He is no longer human nor fully pure blood. He is Kai Ashton and he is with us. Jax grunted, an unintelligible sound that Valerie seemed to understand perfectly. He simply eyed Kai with a wary protective stare. Vance's forces are closing in, Lyra reported, her voice calm and professional. They've breached the outer perimeter. The escape was a blur of heightened senses and adrenaline. Valerie, Lyra, and Jax moved with a terrifying efficiency. They led Kai through a labyrinth of forgotten service tunnels, across dizzying rooftops, and through the bustling, unaware crowds of the city streets below. Kai found himself pushed beyond his limits. He sprinted with a speed he never knew he possessed, his every muscle burning, yet recovering with astonishing quickness. He instinctively dodged security drones and evaded armed guards, his enhanced vision picking out threats before they fully materialized. At one point, as they crossed a rain-slicked rooftop, a laser sight flared across Valerie's chest from a sniper on an adjacent building. Without thinking, Kai reacted. He shoved Valerie violently out of the way, and the laser missed its mark, searing a chunk of the rooftop instead. "You move faster than a normal human, Ashton," Valerie observed, her eyes holding a flicker of surprise, perhaps even gratitude. "You adapt quickly." Kai barely heard her. His heart was pounding, a fierce, primal surge of energy coursing through his veins. He felt the hunger not for blood this time but for the thrill of survival, the raw, exhilarating dance with death. He was protecting someone and the feeling was intoxicating. As they navigated the perilous escape, another one of Valerie's memories slammed into Kai's mind, sharper and more vivid than before. It was a fragmented, violent dream of an ancient time. She was in a vast, sprawling ancient jungle, dappled moonlight filtering through thick canopy. Valerie was on a hunt not for sustenance but for something else. She was ambushed by a band of savage, fur-clad warriors. They were relentless. She fought valiantly but was overwhelmed. Just as a heavy stone axe was about to cleave her skull, a flash of movement. A lithe young woman, Lyra but much younger and dressed in animal skins, leapt from the shadows, firing an arrow that struck the attacking warrior down. Lyra had saved Valerie's life, even though she was a human and Valerie was a vampire. The dream ended with Lyra, a fierce loyalty in her eyes, pledging her service to Valerie. Kai blinked, disoriented, as they burst out of a subway entrance onto a busy street, the cacophony of modern city life jarring after the ancient silence of the dream. He looked at Lyra, fighting alongside them now, her movements precise and deadly. She had been Valerie's loyalist for centuries. Yet, a faint sense of unease lingered from the dream. What could make such loyalty waver? After a harrowing pursuit through the city's underbelly, they finally reached a dimly lit industrial district. Jax kicked open a nondescript metal door, revealing a cavernous, abandoned warehouse. "We have lost the immediate tail," Lyra reported, scanning the surroundings with her bow ready. "But Vance will not give up. This is merely a temporary reprieve." Valerie turned to Kai, her expression grim. "The exchange has made you stronger, Kai. But it also makes you a target. Vance will use your memories against you, against me. You must learn to control what I have given you, or it will destroy you." Kai looked around the shadowy warehouse, the thrum of the city a distant hum. He was no longer a simple researcher. He was part of something ancient, something dangerous. And he was bound to a powerful, mysterious pureblood vampire. His old life was gone, replaced by a neon-drenched reality where his blood held both power and peril. "I need to understand this," Kai said, his voice firm, a newfound resolve in his eyes. "All of it. Vance, the pact, your memories. We fight her by knowing her. And by knowing ourselves." Valerie merely looked at him, a flicker of something unreadable in her amber eyes, perhaps respect, perhaps a warning of the road ahead. The abandoned warehouse provided a temporary, cold sanctuary. Valerie was mapping out their next move on a dusty floor, using chunks of chalk. She drew the runic symbols Kai had seen on the cryopod, explaining their purpose. "The symbol is not a lock, it is a seal," Valerie explained, pointing to the stylized crescent moon and spider design, Jisa thumbnail main high. "It represents the Pureblood Pact of Preservation. My lineage, the Luna clan, swore an oath centuries ago to protect a delicate balance between our kind and yours." She paused, looking at Kai. "I was not a common vampire, Kai. I was the last of the purebloods bound by this code. We only fed on the deserving or the willing. We only inflicted the pact to save a life." Kai, using his researcher's brain, cross-referenced her ancient history with the memories surging through him. "So the blood you gave me, it wasn't just healing, it was power that came with a sacred restriction. It means I can't just feed on anyone without breaking the core of your existence. Precisely, Valerie confirmed. You are now a bridge, a hybrid bound by the code. You feel the hunger, but the pact ensures your humanity remains the anchor. Meanwhile, Lyra and Jax were setting up a perimeter. Jax, though mostly silent, offered Kai a simple high-protein energy bar, a concession to his human needs. Kai used his knowledge of Kronos' network to hack into a low-level security feed, hoping to find traces of Vance's current location. He found no direct data, but the sheer volume of high-security blood analysis requests and Pureblood genetic sequencing patents originating from Vance's private lab was alarming. The surge of curiosity triggered another powerful memory dream, this time tied directly to Vance. She was no longer Valerie. He was standing in a sterile, hidden lab, the air thick with the smell of chemicals and fear. Young Seraphina Vance, perhaps a teenager, was looking through a reinforced glass wall. Inside, a terrified man was strapped to a table, his veins being accessed by automated syringes. Vance's father, a cold, intense man, was overseeing the experiment. The father was lecturing, "The vampires hold the key to immortality, Seraphina. Their regeneration is the ultimate prize. We must eliminate them to claim their blood's power for humanity. It is the only way to perfect the species." The memory ended with Vance's young face, not frightened but intensely focused. The experience had not repelled her. It had fueled her obsession with weaponizing vampire biology. Kai recoiled from the vision, clutching the laptop. "She's not just a hunter, she's a purist. She doesn't just want to kill you, she wants to strip your blood's power and inject it into humans to create a perfect, controlled army. She sees us as research material for her family's twisted vision." "I know," Valerie said quietly. "Vance's family has been studying our kind for 3 centuries, hoping to harvest the pure blood essence. That is why I entered stasis, to keep the power out of their hands." As Kai and Valerie discussed Vance's lineage, a faint electrical pulse registered on Kai's enhanced senses. It was a sophisticated nanobot tracer, embedded in the energy bar Jax had given him. "Jax!" Kai yelled, leaping back. "The food, it was laced with a tracer. Vance knows where we are." Jax, looking shocked, immediately began scanning himself. Lyra moved instantly, firing a micro-EMP arrow at the floor where the bar had fallen, neutralizing the tracker. "It wasn't Jax's doing," Valerie confirmed, studying the remnants of the nanobots. "It's too sophisticated. Vance would have slipped it into the food supply for Kronos' special units, knowing the Sentinels would use them in an emergency." Just as they realized they were exposed, the massive industrial doors of the warehouse slammed shut. The exterior floodlights, powered by a backup generator, flared to life, bathing the entire building in a blinding, artificial noon. Outside, the rumbling sound of heavy armored vehicles approached. A distorted, cold voice crackled over the warehouse's hidden PA system. "Valerie Luna and Kai Ashton. Your voluntary surrender is requested. Your cooperation will guarantee a quick and merciful dissection." It was the chilling voice of Dr. Seraphina Vance. "It's a trap," Lyra hissed, drawing another arrow. Valerie's eyes turned red for a fraction of a second, the amber receding as the primal warrior took over. "She has cornered us. Good. Now we fight." She looked at Kai. "Use your speed, Kai. Use your strength. But do not forget the code." The metal door at the far end of the warehouse buckled inward as Vance's armed private security forces, dozens of them clad in dark armor, began to pour into the warehouse, their weapons raised. The air in the warehouse instantly filled with the scent of ozone and gunpowder. Vance's private army, clad in intimidating black tactical gear, moved in formation, their high-powered rifles aimed. "Live capture of Subject Luna. Subject Ashton is expendable, but retrieval is preferable," a voice barked over the tactical radio. "Jax, create a diversion. Lyra, secure our exit point." Valerie commanded, her voice dropping to a low, powerful snarl. She moved first, a blur of shadow and ancient fury, tearing through the first line of security, relying on pure, unadulterated pureblood strength and hand-to-hand combat. Kai, however, froze for a moment. He was a medical researcher, not a soldier. But the moment Jax opened fire, tearing up the concrete floor, a surge of adrenaline and inherited vampire instinct flooded Kai's system. He saw the world in slow motion, the trajectory of the bullets, the slight flinch of an enemy's trigger finger. HFY moment, a guard raised his weapon directly at Valerie. Before his conscious mind could process it, Kai moved. He activated his superhuman speed for the first time. It felt like tearing through the air, everything around him slowing to a crawl. He slammed into the guard's side, knocking the rifle away and sending the man sprawling. The speed was intoxicating, a wild, raw power. "Don't hesitate," Valerie shouted, dispatching 2 more guards with terrifying efficiency. "They won't stop." Kai found his fighting was less about technique and more about reflexes and predictive awareness, a gift from the shared memories. He was quicker than human, stronger than human. He used the warehouse environment, lifting heavy crates, disabling lights with precise throws and exploiting blind spots. He wasn't killing them but incapacitating them, clinging to the last shreds of his humanity and the Pureblood code. Mid-fight, as Kai ducked a blow and retaliated with a speed-enhanced punch, the sheer stress and energy release triggered the most intense memory dream yet. He was no longer fighting. He was Valerie, but in a beautiful, flowing gown, standing in a moonlit garden. She was embracing a handsome, kind-faced human man, her lover, Caius. It was the night before her mandatory stasis. They knew they had to separate forever to protect the Pureblood knowledge from Vance's ancestors. Valerie was weeping, a raw, deep grief Kai felt directly in his own heart. Caius whispered, "I will never forget you, Luna. We will find peace in another life." Valerie kissed him, a long, sorrowful kiss of sacrifice, before running towards the crypt where her stasis pod waited. The emotional impact was devastating. Kai gasped, stumbling back, tears blurring his vision. He didn't just see the memory, he felt the $300-year-old grief of choosing duty over love. The momentary lapse almost cost him his life. A guard, recovering quickly, aimed a tranquilizer dart gun at Kai. "Kai, focus," Valerie roared, her voice cutting through the ancient pain. She tackled the guard just as Jax and Lyra, having secured a back exit, called out. "My lady, the escape route is clear. We must go," Lyra urged. They retreated towards the exit, using the shadows and Jax's heavy cover fire. As they ran, Kai looked back. He saw one of the unconscious guards being dragged away by another Kronos team. They were already covering their tracks. Valerie stopped just outside the hidden exit, her breathing shallow. She had taken a nasty energy blast to her armored shoulder. "The code is hard, Kai," she said, her red eyes intense. "You felt my deepest grief. Do not let that sadness weaken your resolve. Use the strength, not the sorrow." Kai nodded, the tears drying quickly. The residual sorrow was there, but it was hardened by a fierce protective instinct towards Valerie. He now understood the depth of her sacrifice. Lyra led them through a network of old storm drains, eventually emerging into a deserted suburban area miles from the city center. Their destination was a small, unassuming building that looked like a rundown art studio. "This is the safe house," Lyra said, pressing a complex series of patterns on a keypad. "The true sanctuary. It's shielded against all known modern and ancient surveillance." Inside, the studio was clean, secure, and had a vast collection of ancient texts, scrolls and maps, Valerie's true repository of knowledge. Valerie immediately went to a large, aged map on the wall, her wounded shoulder throbbing. Kai instinctively reached for her, his medical training taking over. "You need to treat that wound," he said, touching her injury. "My blood will heal it," she insisted, pulling away slightly. "It will heal faster with assistance," Kai countered, grabbing sterile supplies from a kit Jax produced. "My knowledge, your regeneration. Remember? We are bound." Valerie allowed him to tend to her. As he worked, he noticed his movements were incredibly precise, his fingers steady, another subtle gift from her lineage. Valerie looked at the young man, his hands gentle yet strong, his eyes holding the wisdom and grief of her $300-year past. She realized the exchange had not just given him strength, it had instilled in him a dangerous, beautiful loyalty. "Vance is obsessed with finding the vault," Valerie said, pointing to a location on the map, a remote, mountainous region. "The place where I hid my Pureblood research before stasis. If she gets her hands on that, she can weaponize my kind's strength on a global scale. We must get there first." The hidden studio, secured and filled with ancient knowledge, became Kai's crash course in Pureblood history. Valerie sat across from him, the room lit by candles that cast dancing shadows, enhancing the atmosphere of ancient secrecy. "The exchange we shared was not an accident, Kai. It was the activation of the Crimson Pact," Valerie explained, tracing the crescent moon symbol on her neck. "It's an ancient covenant forged between the first Pureblood and a noble line of human protectors." She elaborated that the Pureblood vampire possessed the power of absolute healing and regeneration, but they were bound by an ethical mandate. They could not use their gift to inflict unnecessary death. If a life was taken in an emergency feeding, the pureblood was honor-bound to restore that life with their own vital essence. A process that permanently linked their souls and granted the human partial yet powerful vampire abilities. You took my life force, but you also gave me a small piece of your immortality, Kai summarized, his researcher's mind finally grappling with the mystical logic. My body's DNA is now merging with your essence. That's why I'm experiencing the heightened senses, the speed, and the memories. But also the hunger, Valerie warned. And the burden of my echoes. The pact is a double-edged sword. It anchors your humanity to my code, but it also gives you an addiction to the strength only my blood can provide. While Valerie educated Kai, Lyra and Jax were working on counter-surveillance. Lyra's expertise in ancient tracking methods, combined with Kai's knowledge of modern tech, was a formidable combination. Suddenly, a hidden frequency, known only to Kronos' top brass, pinged on Kai's modified laptop. It was an encrypted broadcast from Dr. Vance. Vance wasn't issuing a direct threat, she was being subtly manipulative. The broadcast showed a clinical video of a new, advanced cryopod, far more powerful than the one Valerie had escaped from, being tested. Vance's voice, cool and professional, detailed how the pod was designed to preserve any biological asset indefinitely, ensuring no power or knowledge is wasted. She's sending a message, Kai realized, recognizing his mentor's tactics. She's showing you that she's ready. If she captures you again, you won't just be put back to sleep. You'll be a frozen library she can access at will. She's taunting you, Valerie. Valerie's amber eyes flashed with cold anger. She wants me to panic and make a mistake. She knows I will not let her weaponize my lineage. The young princess in the code. That night, Kai's memory dream was one of profound significance, showcasing Valerie's commitment to the code even as a child. He was now Valerie, a young vampire princess, perhaps 10 years old. She was in a hidden chamber of reflection within the ancient fortress. Her father, the vampire king, was lecturing her on the code, never harm the innocent. The pact is sacred. Humans and vampires must coexist. Valerie, in the dream, felt the immense pressure of this responsibility. Her mother, who was human, entered and reassured her that the power came from the love, not the thirst. This memory highlighted the deep conflict between her two natures, and her fierce, youthful dedication to the code. When Kai woke up, he felt a deeper respect for Valerie. Your code isn't just about survival, it's about honor. It's about protecting humanity, he said, looking at her with new admiration. But the pressure, that feeling of carrying the world's balance. It is the burden of the pure blood, Valerie acknowledged. And now it is partially yours. The immediate threat of Vance's armed forces had passed, but they were now in a desperate race. Vance was clearly preparing to deploy a powerful capture device, the new cryopod, and was closing in on the location of the vault, the sacred hidden chamber where Valerie had stored all her research and ancient artifacts, including the crucial antidote to the pure blood powers, should they ever fall into the wrong hands. The vault is our only chance, Valerie declared, spreading a map across the table. It's located deep in the Carpathian Mountains, sealed with ancient magic and guarded by defenses that need my specific blood signature to bypass. If Vance reaches it first, her vision of a weaponized human army will become a reality. Kai looked at the map, then at the confident, powerful vampire beside him. He might have been a human researcher a week ago, but now he was a hybrid, bound by a Crimson Pact, possessing stolen knowledge and determined to stop his former mentor. I know her systems better than anyone, Kai said, picking up a section of the map. I can anticipate her movements. We move to the mountains. Now. Valerie gave him a rare, genuine nod. Then we begin the journey to my past, Kai Ashton. And to our future. The escape required them to abandon the city grid. Lyra, using her expertise in off-the-grid travel, procured an unassuming, heavily modified utility vehicle. Jax drove, a silent, powerful presence, while Lyra monitored for signals. Kai sat in the back with Valerie, studying the ancient texts he had salvaged from the safe house, trying to reconcile the mystical with his scientific training. Their journey took them out of the neon sprawl and into the desolate, winding highways leading towards the eastern mountains, a grueling trip that tested Kai's stamina, which was now significantly higher due to the pact. The close proximity and the shared danger began to chip away at Valerie's centuries-old stoicism. She was forced to rely on Kai's modern knowledge, GPS coordinates, satellite images, and basic human logistics, things she hadn't needed in $300 years. Your world is loud and fast, she remarked, watching the traffic rush past. It lacks the simple honesty of the forest. It's messy, but we built it to survive, Kai countered. Just like your code. It's about preserving life, even if it's imperfect. This exchange sparked a deep, tense conversation about trust. Kai questioned why Valerie had chosen to save him rather than let him die. You were wounded, weak, and had just been awakened, Kai pressed. Killing me would have been easier. Valerie's amber eyes met his. My life was already forfeit to the stasis. You woke me. My code dictates that I repay the life force I take. The pact is not a choice, Kai. It is a fundamental law of my existence. But in you, she admitted, her voice dropping to a near whisper, I found a mind that understands the need for protection. That is something I choose to trust. While driving, Kai used the vehicle's satellite link to run a low-level diagnostic on Kronos' main servers. He found a massive, automated program running, a predictive algorithm based on his and Valerie's initial escape vectors and their probable destination, the Carpathian Mountains. Vance isn't relying on nanobots anymore, Kai announced grimly. She's using predictive tracking based on my previous research habits. She knows I always choose the most direct yet least monitored route. She's laying a digital trap. He saw a flag on their current route. A remote highway patrol checkpoint had been recently activated, specifically looking for their vehicle's make and model. We have an hour until we hit the checkpoint, Kai stated. If we go through, we're captured. Valerie and Lyra immediately changed the strategy. Instead of relying on brute force or evasion, they chose deception, using a mix of ancient and modern techniques. Kai, with his understanding of the Kronos database, created a digital clone of their vehicle's ID and sent it on a different, heavily monitored route, creating a deliberate false trail for Vance to follow. The tension of the drive, the shared meals, and the low-level threats deepened the connection forged by the Crimson Pact. That night, during a brief stop in a hidden forest clearing, Kai succumbed to another memory dream. She was Valerie standing alone under a sky filled with countless stars. It was a moment of peace but also profound loneliness. She was watching over the distant human villages, knowing she could never truly be a part of their world, nor fully a part of the violent vampire society she had left behind. Suddenly the memory shifted. It wasn't just Valerie's loneliness. A new sensation entered the dream, Kai's own human memories of family and warmth. Valerie felt the love of his human mother, the simple joy of his childhood achievements. She felt the depth of humanity's resilience and capacity for kindness, qualities she had only witnessed from afar. Kai woke up, breathing heavily, but this time the feeling was not just grief, it was empathy. You saw my mother's smile, he whispered to Valerie, who was standing guard. You saw the good in my world. Valerie's defenses seemed to crumble slightly. Your memories are a strange comfort. They remind me why the pact is worth the burden. Why humans are worth protecting. She then revealed a painful secret, one she had hidden even from her sentinels. When I entered stasis, I did not just protect the blood. I protected the knowledge of a weakness. The key to destroying my entire lineage should the pact ever fail. Vance cannot know this. Kai realized the stakes were higher than survival. They were fighting for the very existence of a code of honor. They successfully bypassed the checkpoint using Kai's digital decoy. They were now truly off the map, heading into the remote mountains where Vance's influence should wane, but where the world was governed by ancient laws. As they looked up at the looming, dark mountains ahead, Valerie gave Kai a stern look. You now share my power and my past, she said, her voice intense. If we reach the vault, the danger will multiply. You must be prepared to face the darkest parts of my history, and the darkest parts of yourself. The hunger will grow. Kai, no longer just a researcher but a tested survivor, met her gaze. I made a promise to myself the moment I saw my mentor's true face. I will stop her. Your past is my present, Valerie, and we will face the future together. The journey continued into the desolate foothills, the environment growing cold and unforgiving. The close quarters amplified the tension, particularly between the Sentinels and Kai. Jax remained mostly silent, communicating through gruff gestures, but Lyra's suspicion towards Kai was palpable. Valerie, sensing the rift, used a night stop to finally reveal her Sentinels' backstories, offering Kai more pieces of her long, complex past. Jax's memory, shared through Valerie's echoes that night, wasn't a grand battle but a simple act of mercy. Jax was a gladiator in a distant land 3 centuries ago. He was condemned to death for refusing to kill a defenseless opponent. Valerie, seeing his honor, intervened. She didn't turn him into a vampire. She simply used her blood to heal his fatal wounds and then secured his freedom, demanding only his loyalty to the code. His loyalty wasn't to her power but to her honor. Lyra's story, however, was laced with sorrow. She was an archer from a human community that Valerie's clan had vowed to protect. When a rival vampire clan decimated her village, Lyra initially blamed Valerie. Valerie, in a rare display of vulnerability, took Lyra in not as a servant, but as a student, training her to become the most formidable hunter against those who betrayed the code. Lyra's loyalty was rooted in grief and a desire for justice, making her a fierce but potentially fragile ally. Their loyalty is ancient and absolute, Valerie concluded, looking pointedly at Lyra who was sharpening her arrows. Do not mistake their suspicion for malice, Kai. They are simply protecting the code. Kai understood. Jax was a loyal shield, but Lyra was a silent, calculating blade whose past grief still simmered. As they drove through a narrow, winding mountain pass, Kai's enhanced senses flared violently. He smelled ozone, refined metal, and a specific type of synthetic tracking agent, all hallmarks of high-tech Chronos gear. Ambush! Kai yelled, his voice carrying the urgent instinct of survival. Not Vance's regular security. These are different. Smaller, faster, a specialized extraction team. Indeed, a small unit of 4 elite, technologically augmented Chronos operatives emerged from the shadows. They weren't using UV light or large weapons. They carried specialized magnetic containment nets designed to neutralize the speed and strength of a pureblood. This was Vance's first targeted, precise move, aimed at capturing them swiftly and silently before they reached the vault. The fight was intense, chaotic, and contained. Jax acted as the impenetrable front line, using his sheer size to deflect the containment nets. Lyra provided expert cover fire, disabling the operative's sensory gear with her precision arrows. Valerie, still wary of her weakened state from the stasis, moved with calculated grace, focusing on disabling the operative's armor. But the real threat was the speed of the Chronos team, which nearly matched Kai's. One operative, dodging Lyra's arrow, lunged at Valerie with a containment device. Kai reacted immediately, realizing he couldn't rely on simple brute force against the tech. He used his knowledge of the net's internal frequency. Moving faster than his mind could consciously calculate, he slammed his hand against a nearby rock face, shattering it with his enhanced strength. The impact created a powerful sonic wave that disrupted the magnetic frequency of the net just as it deployed, causing it to short-circuit harmlessly. This was Kai's true HFY moment, the combination of human intellect, knowing the tech, and vampire strength, executing the disruption. He was the perfect counter to Vance's modern technology. Your intellect is your greatest weapon, Kai Ashton, Valerie said, catching her breath as the last operative was subdued. The Sentinels, adhering to the code, didn't kill the operatives but quickly incapacitated them. They briefly interrogated the team leader, confirming that Vance wasn't far behind. She was setting up a temporary command center closer to the mountain range, anticipating their arrival at the vault. More importantly, the team leader revealed that Dr. Vance had developed a blood signature tracker, a device capable of isolating the unique combined genetic markers of Kai's hybrid DNA and using it for pinpoint tracking. She's using my unique signature against us, Kai realized grimly. The pact made me her ultimate beacon. Valerie looked at the defeated operatives, then at the distant, daunting mountains. We must move off-road now. We must reach the ancient trails where even her satellites cannot find us. And we must find a way to shield your signature. She placed a protective ancient leather cuff on Kai's wrist, adorned with the crescent moon symbol. This is not a cure, but it will help camouflage your essence against the immediate tracking devices. It's the best I can offer until we reach the vault. As they packed up and headed towards the truly treacherous, isolated peaks, the threat felt more immediate and personal than ever. Vance wasn't just chasing an artifact, she was hunting the ultimate biological specimen, the hybrid. The ascent into the truly remote Carpathian peaks was treacherous. The ancient paths were barely visible and the temperature dropped sharply. Kai's physical endurance, boosted by the pact, was now crucial. He could climb for hours without rest, his enhanced grip securing him on slippery rock faces. However, the strenuous effort coupled with the altitude and the proximity to the ancient, wild environment amplified the pureblood hunger. It was no longer a dull ache, it was a constant, searing craving that whispered promises of absolute strength and exhilaration if he would just yield. One evening, as Jax was setting a hidden campsite, Kai was overwhelmed. He stumbled away from the firelight, his eyes momentarily flashing the same terrifying red he had first seen in Valerie's. He saw Lyra moving in the shadows, and for a terrifying second, his mind registered her not as an ally, but as a warm, vital source of sustenance. He fought the impulse, slamming his fist into a tree trunk to reassert control. The tree splintered violently. Valerie materialized instantly beside him, her gaze sharp and unwavering. "Control it, Kai. The power is a gift, but the hunger is a test. If you yield to it, your humanity will be consumed, and you will become a mindless beast, exactly what Vance believes we are." Valerie knew she had to teach him discipline, and quickly. She initiated a rigorous, secret training session under the cold moonlight, separate from Lyra and Jax. She focused on mental conditioning, forcing Kai to channel his surging power into controlled bursts. She taught him to meditate on his human memories, his research, his mother, his sense of duty, to create an anchor against the pureblood aggression. During the training they were forced into close physical contact, movements synchronized by the pact. The intense physical and emotional proximity broke down the last of their personal barriers. The power they shared was not just biological, it was deeply intimate. "The pact links our souls," Valerie admitted, their faces inches apart after a particularly grueling maneuver. "I feel your humanity, your fear of losing control. You are terrified of becoming a monster." "I am," Kai admitted, breathing heavily. "But you're a pure blood and you still have your soul. How do you do it?" "Discipline born from centuries of loss," she replied, her eyes softening. "And the knowledge that the code is the only thing that separates us from the predators who seek only destruction." That night, their shared connection, intensified by the physical training, triggered a profound and devastating memory dream. Kai was now Valerie, immersed in a massive ancient vampire war. 3 rival clans, brutal, power-hungry and without the pact, were attempting to wipe out the Luna lineage. Valerie, as a young leader, was forced to make a terrible choice. To save her own clan and honor the code of non-aggression towards humans, she ordered the sealing of her most powerful artifacts and knowledge, including the vault, knowing that she would have to go into stasis alone to prevent the total annihilation of her lineage and the weaponization of her blood. The dream reached its agonizing climax. Valerie standing over the newly sealed vault, turning her back on her devoted but terrified followers, including a younger Jax and Lyra, accepting the mantle of solitary exile and eternal guardianship. The pain of ultimate sacrifice, giving up everything she loved for the greater good, was overwhelming. Kai woke up sobbing, not for himself, but for the profound loneliness Valerie had endured for $300 years. "You didn't run from the war," Kai choked out, looking at Valerie, who was now silent and pale, having felt the echo just as strongly. "You ran into exile to save the world from your own power." Valerie merely looked at him, her vulnerability exposed by the shared memory. "The code required it. It requires it still." The memory solidified their bond and Kai's commitment. He now saw the true weight of Valerie's existence and the depth of Vance's threat. Vance didn't just want power, she wanted to desecrate the memory of a 3-century-long sacrifice. Using his enhanced hearing, Kai picked up a distant, muffled sound, a low-flying Kronos reconnaissance drone. It was a reminder that despite the ancient camouflage, Vance's modern technology was closing in. "She's testing the perimeter," Kai said, his voice now steady and firm, the fear replaced by resolve. "She's using a new high-altitude scanner, trying to bypass the mountain interference. We need to disable the scanner before it can isolate the magnetic field from the cuff you gave me." Valerie nodded. "Then we move. We are close to the vault, but we are also close to her new command center. We must move faster than the drone, and we must not hesitate." Kai looked down at the hand that had crushed the tree, then at the ancient cuff on his wrist. He was a hybrid, human intellect, vampire strength, and a shared soul. He was ready for the final ascent. The threat of Vance's reconnaissance drone forced immediate action. The drone, flying high above the mountain peaks, was equipped with the sophisticated scanner designed to pick up Kai's hybrid blood signature. "It's searching for the magnetic field disruption from the cuff," Kai explained, his eyes fixed on the distant, silent flyer, which was almost invisible to the naked eye. "If it locks on, Vance will know our exact position within minutes." Valerie took charge, instructing Lyra to find a position with minimal atmospheric interference and Jax to prepare a heavy thermal decoy. Kai's role was crucial. He had to hack the drone's uplink using a portable device he had modified, essentially turning the hunter into the hunted. The process required Kai to be completely exposed on a high ridge, concentrating fully on the complex encryption while using his enhanced senses to maintain a subtle, precise energy signature that the drone scanner could barely register. Just as the drone adjusted its trajectory about to lock onto Kai, he finished the hack. He didn't destroy the drone. Instead, he reprogrammed its logic, sending it on a looping, highly inefficient reconnaissance pattern, wasting Vance's time and resources. Success, Kai gasped, slumping slightly in exhaustion. But that was too close. Vance's tech is evolving quickly. Valerie looked at him, her pride evident. Your brilliance, coupled with the pack's speed, makes you indispensable, Kai. A pureblood cannot do what you just did. The adrenaline from the hack, coupled with the emotional intensity of the previous night's shared grief, triggered a rare event, a memory echo that flowed not from Valerie to Kai, but from Kai to Valerie. Valerie suddenly staggered, clutching her head. Her expression, usually stoic, crumpled into one of pure, uncomplicated human joy. She was Kai, a young adult in a bustling city library studying late. The memory wasn't a historical drama or a great battle. It was simple, overwhelming warmth. Kai's mother, knowing he was stressed, walked in not with a fancy meal, but with his favorite simple cup of hot chocolate. The feeling was profound. The comforting, unconditional love of a human mother, the smell of cocoa and paper, the sheer joy of simple, mundane existence. Valerie sank to her knees, breathing heavily. The red glow in her eyes faded entirely. When she looked up, her expression was vulnerable. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice husky. "My memory," Kai replied, rushing to her side. "A simple moment with my mother. A happy memory. You felt it?" "I felt peace," Valerie admitted, touching her own chest. "The uncomplicated love, the warmth. My life has been centuries of duty and loss. I had forgotten that humanity could be so simple, so beautiful." The shared memory acted as a profound counterbalance to Valerie's centuries of isolation. It reminded her that the world she was protecting was one worth fighting for, not just a concept of the code. It solidified their connection, bridging the gap between ancient vampire duty and modern human compassion. The shared moment was fleeting, shattered by the chilling realization of their location. They had reached a deep, almost invisible crevice that housed a hidden entrance. "The vault is below us," Valerie announced, her voice regaining its strength but tinged with urgency. The symbols on the rock face matched the ancient seal. But there is a secondary mechanism. She pointed to a carving of the crescent moon symbol, which had a depression designed for a specific artifact. "Before entering stasis, I secured the vault with a small yet powerful binding artifact. Without it, the vault is impenetrable. If Vance knows about this artifact, she will be looking for it." Jax suddenly spoke, his low voice tight with concern. "My lady, the tracking signal from the Sentinels' communications array has been remotely activated. It is broadcasting a clear distress signal, a coded message designed to lure another party to us." Kai accessed the array's encrypted data. "It's not Vance. It's an old code, a call for aid to a third party. Someone else knows about the vault and is trying to bring in help." Valerie went pale. "The Crimson Guard. They are the remnants of the ancient council who betrayed me and forced me into stasis. They want the vault's power for themselves. And they are using Lyra's communications code to draw a new ally, one capable of disabling the binding artifact." The stakes suddenly tripled. It wasn't just Kai versus Vance. Now, an ancient, internal vampire threat was entering the fray, and they were using a vulnerability within their own Sentinel ranks. "We have to move inside now," Kai urged, "before the Crimson Guard's allies arrive. And before Vance figures out the true target." The discovery of the Crimson Guard's coded distress signal, broadcast using Lyra's communications array, sent a shockwave of mistrust through the group. They had arrived at the vault, but a far greater danger than Vance was now upon them: internal betrayal. "The Crimson Guard is ancient," Valerie said, her voice heavy with cold fury. "They are the remnants of the council who feared the pact and plotted my stasis. They want the vault not just for power, but to destroy the legacy of the Luna lineage. Someone here has been working with them." All eyes immediately fell on Lyra and Jax. Jax, the massive, simple warrior, looked genuinely confused and hurt. "My lady," Jax rumbled, placing his huge hand over his heart, "my loyalty is to the code and to you. I would sooner die than betray the pact." Lyra remained silent, her expression unreadable, her bow held loosely in her hand. Kai, using his hybrid abilities, had a better chance of sensing deceit. He used his enhanced perception not just on their words, but on their subtle biological stress signals and flickering echoes. He saw only Jax's genuine distress, but Lyra's internal landscape was a complex mesh of grief and steely resolve. He approached Lyra, his voice calm and steady. The signal was sent through your array, Lyra. It's an old-world code only a trusted few would know. Why? Lyra finally lowered her bow, the silence deafening. Her eyes were filled with the same ancient sorrow Kai had seen in her memory dream. It was necessary, she admitted, her voice cracking slightly. I sent the signal but not to betray the code, Valerie. I sent it to betray you. She revealed her motivation. Her village was destroyed by a rival clan while under Valerie's protection. The grief was too deep. The Crimson Guard had approached her, promising her that if they gained the pureblood knowledge from the vault, they would use it to create a cure, something that would allow her to finally avenge her family without violating the code by involving humans. The Crimson Guard lied, Valerie said, her voice rising to a dangerous pitch. They promise peace but only deal in bloodshed. They only want the power to enslave humanity and rule the remaining vampires. Lyra was blinded by her own long-standing pain. I had to take the chance, my lady. Your code saves the whole, but my family was the cost. Suddenly, Lyra drew a hidden ancient throwing dagger, not at Valerie but at the ground. It was a prearranged signal. As the dagger struck the rock, a hidden sonic emitter was activated. From the shadowed mountainside, a squad of Crimson Guard warriors materialized. They were vampires but older, more savage than Valerie's lineage, clad in archaic, menacing armor. They were led by Vorian, a fierce, ancient vampire who carried the binding artifact, a small, glowing orb that pulsed with dark energy. Lyra, my brave sentinel. Vorian hissed, his voice echoing. You have delivered the last of the purebloods to us. Now the vault is ours. The focus immediately shifted. Lyra, momentarily stunned by Vorian's immediate declaration of global intent, hesitated. Jax, in a roar of protective rage, charged Vorian, but was easily knocked back by the ancient vampire's raw, untamed power. Valerie realized the desperate situation. Jax, protect Kai. Kai, you must get the artifact. It is the key to both the vault and its power. The battle erupted. Valerie against the Crimson Guard, Jax guarding the entrance, and Lyra caught in the middle of her betrayal. But then the final twist. Dr. Vance's forces arrived. Vance's helicopters, guided by the signature from Lyra's distress signal, swept over the mountain peak. Vance and a team of her UV-armed security team rappelled down, their modern light weapons illuminating the ancient, chaotic battle between the two vampire factions. Vance surveyed the scene, Valerie, the Crimson Guard, the artifact, with a triumphant smile. How convenient, Vance's cold voice cut through the noise. The ancient enemy fights the ancient predator. I shall simply clean up the remains and claim the prize. Get the hybrid. His blood is the ultimate key. Kai, cornered between the ancient vampire warriors and the high-tech human hunters, knew he had only one chance. He had to secure the binding artifact before it fell into either enemy's hands. As the battle raged, Kai used his superhuman speed and Lyra's momentary distraction. He saw the binding artifact pulsing in Vorian's hand. If he could take it, he could control the vault and gain a powerful leverage point against both his enemies. The mountain peak transformed into a chaotic battleground. Valerie, the pureblood, fought with the terrifying grace of an ancient warrior against Vorian and his savage Crimson Guard, while simultaneously evading the high-tech UV weapons of Dr. Vance's Kronos team. Valerie's focus was split. She had to fight her own kind, vampires who had betrayed the code, while facing the modern threat from her former mentor. Jax, realizing the desperate situation and his failure to spot Lyra's betrayal, fought with a primal ferocity against the advancing Kronos forces, using his brute strength to smash through their armor and shielding Valerie from the deadly UV rays. Lyra, stunned by the immediate declaration of global conquest by Vorian, found herself paralyzed. Her grief had been manipulated. She had intended to find a cure for her family's pain, not to unleash a global blood war. Kai, the hybrid, realized the simple truth. This was not a fight he could win with brute force alone. His primary objective had to be the binding artifact, which Vorian was clutching tightly, using its dark energy to enhance his power. Using his superhuman speed and hybrid awareness, Kai dodged the energy blast from Vorian's hand and the UV beams from Vance's team. He saw an opening. Vance's UV specialists were trying to flank Valerie, momentarily distracting Vorian. In a breathtaking surge of speed, Kai launched himself through the gap. He didn't aim for Vorian, he aimed for the artifact. HFY moment. Kai used the pureblood-enhanced strength in his arm, but he focused his researcher's knowledge on Vorian's grip. He knew the precise nerve cluster to target. He struck Vorian's wrist with calculated force, shattering the ancient vampire's concentration and causing him to momentarily drop the glowing orb. Kai snatched the binding artifact. The moment his hand closed around it, a shockwave of ancient energy and a new flood of memories, Vorian's ruthless past, slammed into his mind, momentarily stunning him. The capture of the artifact immediately refocused the entire battle on Kai. Get the hybrid. He has the key. Vance shrieked over the comms, her voice raw with desperation. She immediately directed her remaining UV specialists towards Kai. Vorian, enraged, lunged at Kai, attempting to retrieve his prize. The artifact is mine, little creature. Vorian hissed. No. Valerie roared, intercepting Vorian. She plunged a makeshift stake into his shoulder, buying Kai a precious few seconds. Lyra. Now is your chance. Jax yelled, seeing her hesitation. Honor the code. Lyra snapped out of her trance. She realized her only path to redemption was to uphold the code she had sworn to protect. She fired a precision arrow not at a person, but at a rock face directly above Vance's team, causing a small, localized rock slide that blocked their path and momentarily disabled their UV lights. Cut. The entrance. Valerie screamed. Use the artifact. Kai stumbled towards the ancient rock carving, the binding artifact pulsing fiercely in his hand. He pressed it into the depression of the crescent moon symbol on the wall. The entire mountain shuddered. The runes on the rock face glowed a brilliant crimson. The ground split open, revealing a hidden, vast staircase leading down into the darkness, the vault. As the entrance opened, Valerie shoved Kai down the stairs. Go. Seal it from the inside. I will hold them off. But before Kai could descend, Vance, having recovered from Lyra's action, fired a specialized grappling hook designed to contain supernatural speed. It caught Kai's leg, dragging him back towards her. Vance loomed over him, her face a mask of triumph and obsession. You won't escape me, Kai. Your blood is the perfect blend. I will have the hybrid in the vault. Suddenly Valerie moved again, faster than ever before. She threw herself between Vance and Kai, using her own body to shield the hybrid. The pact protects him, Seraphina. Valerie's voice was defiant. Valerie's action bought Kai the fraction of a second he needed. He severed the grappling hook with a shard of rock. He looked up at Valerie, fighting alone against both the Crimson Guard and Kronos forces. I'll be back. Kai promised, and with the artifact still in his hand, he plunged into the darkness of the vault, the crimson glow of the entrance ceiling shut above him. He was inside, safe for the moment, but alone with Valerie's $300 years of secrets, while she and the Sentinels were left fighting for their lives against two deadly factions above. Kai Ashton crash-landed onto the cold, dusty floor of the vault, the powerful magic seal of the crescent moon symbol locking the entrance above him with a terrifying, grinding sound. He was alone, clutching the pulsating binding artifact. The vault wasn't a treasury, it was an ancient, massive research laboratory and library. Walls lined with scrolls and runic tablets surrounded a vast central chamber dominated by a high-tech, yet ancient, cryogenic containment unit, Project Nocturnus Ibiziata Advanced. The air was cold, sterile, and smelled of centuries-old incense and ozone. Kai placed the binding artifact on a large stone console. Immediately the entire chamber illuminated and the console activated, displaying holographic projections of complex pureblood genetic structures and biological formulas, Valerie's $300 years of research. This was her final work, the ultimate secrets of the pact. This is not a crypt, Valerie, Kai muttered, awestruck. It's the ultimate lab. Kai, the researcher, instinctively began to analyze the data. He found the section detailing the true purpose of the vault. It contained the complete blueprints for the Extinction Protocol, the secret knowledge to neutralize the pureblood bloodline, designed as a final fail-safe should the code ever be corrupted. As he studied the formula, the binding artifact beside him began to glow violently, pulsing into his hand. It wasn't just a key, it was a vast ancient storage drive. A horrific new torrent of memories, Vorian's ruthless past, slammed into Kai. Vorian's acts of cruelty, his slaughter of entire human settlements, his betrayal of Valerie's ancestors, and his complete disregard for the pact. Kai felt the intense, dark bloodlust that defined the Crimson Guard. Kai gasped, recoiling from the raw evil. He realized the terrifying paradox. The binding artifact contained the power to destroy the pureblood bloodline, but it had been corrupted by Vorian's prolonged handling, infusing it with his dark hunger and malice. Suddenly, a violent, high-pitched screeching sound echoed from the sealed ceiling above. Kai used his enhanced hearing to pinpoint the noise. Dr. Vance was attempting to breach the magical seal using a specialized geothermal drill, a Kronos mining tool designed to bore through solid rock and magical barriers. Kai checked the console's integrity readings. "She's already $20 meters in," he whispered, panicking. "This seal won't hold against modern industrial tech for long. Maybe an hour, tops." He then hacked into the console's external diagnostics and found a small, coded message from Valerie, transmitted before the seal closed. "Stay alive. The weakness is key. Use the blood in the cryopod. Do not lose your mind." Valerie was instructing him to use the highly concentrated pureblood blood stored in the advanced cryopod in the center of the vault. Kai approached the large, central cryopod. It wasn't meant for a person but for a shimmering, vibrant, crimson liquid, the purified, concentrated pureblood essence. This was the ultimate source of Valerie's healing and power, stored for centuries. Kai knew the risk. Drinking this much concentrated essence could permanently overwrite his human DNA, turning him fully into a powerful but potentially unstable vampire. But Valerie's message was clear. To stop Vance, he needed the strength and knowledge that this purity offered. He made his decision. He used the binding artifact to draw a measured, small dose of the crimson liquid into a sterile vial. He raised the vial, his hands trembling. "I am a researcher," Kai reminded himself, his voice shaking. "I understand the risks. But I made a promise." He drank the liquid. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. A searing, white-hot fire erupted in his veins. His vision turned hyperacute, his strength multiplied tenfold, and the final, missing pieces of Valerie's research and memories flooded his mind. The Extinction Protocol's true activation. He realized the protocol didn't destroy the vampires, it destroyed the hybrid link, the pact itself. It was the only way to save humanity from a corrupted pureblood. Vance's full plan. He saw Vance's final, desperate command: capture Kai, use his hybrid DNA to bypass the magical seal, and then fuse the pureblood essence with a human military virus. Kai stood up, his posture rigid, his eyes glowing with both the pureblood intensity and human resolve. The hunger was there, but now it was overshadowed by an immense, calculated power. He was ready to fight. The high-pitched screech of the geothermal drill suddenly stopped, replaced by a deafening crack. Dr. Vance had breached the ancient seal. Kai, his body burning with the freshly absorbed pureblood essence, stood rigid beside the main console. His eyes now glowed with a fierce, concentrated amber, and his hearing registered every shift of rock and every frantic heartbeat from the intruders above. He felt the terrifying, calculated power of Valerie's lineage flowing through him, magnified by his human intellect. Vance was not alone. She descended the newly drilled hole first, wearing a high-tech exoskeleton suit and carrying a specialized energy dampener, a device designed to neutralize supernatural speed and regeneration. Behind her were 4 specialized Kronos operatives, armed with UV and magnetic pulse weaponry. Vance's eyes, filled with fanatic glee, immediately fixed on Kai. She didn't look for Valerie's artifacts, she looked at Kai Ashton, the transformed hybrid. "Kai. My brilliant subject." Vance hissed, her voice distorted by her suit speaker. "You took the essence. You have achieved convergence. You are perfect." Vance activated the energy dampener, filling the vault with a subtle, debilitating field. Kai felt his newfound speed slow to a crawl, and his regeneration felt sluggish. Vance, the researcher, knew his every weakness, and now his new power's vulnerability. "You may have her blood, Kai, but I have the science," Vance taunted. "I know how to control the pure blood. Surrender the artifact and I will preserve your mind for study. Or I will take your blood and discard the rest." But Kai, infused with the combined knowledge of his research and Valerie's centuries of strategy, was ready. He didn't rely on brute strength, which was now dampened. HFY moment. "You miscalculated, Seraphina," Kai said, his voice deep and resonant. "The essence didn't just give me strength, it gave me the knowledge to analyze your tech. You built this dampener on a faulty quantum field theory I abandoned 3 years ago." In a lightning-fast sequence, Kai struck 2 of the runic power conduits on the main console with the binding artifact. The artifact, infused with both pureblood and Vorian's dark energy, overloaded the conduits. The resulting energy surge wasn't aimed at Vance, but at the vault's environmental controls. The sudden shift in the magical field caused an immediate, intense feedback loop in Vance's energy dampener, forcing her to deactivate it with a frustrated shout. The dampening field was gone. Kai was free. The fight immediately became physical and breathtakingly fast. Kai moved like a crimson blur, using the vault's massive support pillars and scattered equipment to his advantage. He was precise, focused, and utterly ruthless in his efficiency. He wasn't attacking blindly. He was disabling Vance's operatives with surgical precision. A broken joint, a short-circuited helmet, an incapacitated nervous system, adhering to the code even in the heat of battle. Vance, however, was prepared for a direct confrontation. She activated a hidden feature on her suit, integrated UV burst emitters. She began firing intense bursts of UV light, forcing Kai to utilize his heightened regeneration just to survive. As Kai dodged a massive UV blast, the strain of the fight and the power surge from the essence triggered the final, most complete memory echo of Valerie's past. He was Valerie standing at a crossroads $300 years ago. She had just sealed the vault. Her beloved human partner, Caius, was waiting for her. He knew she had to go into stasis, but he had one last plan. He had created a powerful counter-serum using his own blood, a serum that could neutralize the Pureblood's destructive hunger but only for a limited time. Caius begged her to take it, to find peace in her exile. Valerie refused. She knew the serum was her only chance for normalcy, but she chose stasis and the risk of the pact instead, knowing that the potential cure was the ultimate weakness that Vance's ancestors would seek. She had to bury that secret with herself. Kai realized the crushing truth. The extinction protocol wasn't the fail-safe, Caius's counter-serum was. And the central cryopod in the vault contained not just pure blood essence, but the ingredients for that very serum, the ultimate vulnerability she had buried. With this knowledge, Kai knew exactly how to proceed. Vance, seeing her team fall and the dampener failing, lunged at the central cryopod containing the essence, intending to destroy it or take it. Kai intercepted her. He used the binding artifact to channel his pure, concentrated power. He didn't aim to harm Vance but to stop her objective. He slammed the artifact onto the cryopod's terminal, not breaking it, but locking it with a new hybrid-infused magical seal, a combination of Valerie's runic magic and his own digital encryption. The console flashed, access denied. Pact lock, hybrid integrity. Vance stared at the console, then at Kai, her face a mask of disbelief. You locked me out. You used my research against me. You taught me to find the flaw, Seraphina, Kai said, his voice calm, the hunger controlled. The flaw wasn't in the pact, it was in your obsession. Suddenly the floor above them exploded. Valerie, Jax, and Lyra had successfully fought off the remaining forces of the Crimson Guard and the Chronos security. They descended into the vault, ready for the final confrontation. Valerie, Jax, and Lyra descended into the vault and found Kai standing over the defeated Chronos operatives and the enraged, cornered Dr. Seraphina Vance. The vault glowed with the power of the new hybrid seal Kai had placed on the cryopod. Seraphina, Valerie said, her voice a low, lethal promise. The pact is not for sale. Vance, stripped of her technological advantage and facing the full force of the Pureblood and her loyal Sentinels, made one final, desperate move. She activated a self-destruct sequence on her remaining suit systems, designed to overload the vault's delicate ecosystem and destroy the cryopod, burying everyone and everything under tons of rock. If I can't have the power, no one will. Vance shrieked, making a final lunge toward the binding artifact which was still resting on the console, hoping to use its raw power against the Pureblood. Jax moved instantly, engaging Vance in a powerful struggle to prevent her from reaching the artifact. Lyra, seeking full redemption, used her archery expertise to target the hidden structural weaknesses in Vance's suit, disabling the self-destruct sequence before it could reach critical mass. The true threat, however, was the binding artifact. Its corruption by the Crimson Guard's dark essence was escalating, threatening to flood the vault with uncontrollable chaos. Valerie knew only one way to neutralize it. A Pureblood had to absorb the artifact's corruption entirely, sacrificing their own purity to cleanse the object and save the vault. It would likely destroy her mind and soul. Kai, move. Valerie commanded, surging forward to grab the artifact. I must absorb the corruption. It is the code. Kai, the hybrid, reacted with the instinct of both the code and the human love that now anchored him. He understood the complex, intertwined energies better than anyone. He grabbed Valerie's arm, pulling her back. No, Valerie. Your essence is too pure. The corruption will shatter you. Kai's eyes glowed with final determination. My essence is the bridge. I'm already tainted by human greed and scientific pragmatism, and purified by your pact. I can balance it. The final exchange, Kai, combining his pure blood strength, his human intellect and the vast research knowledge he had consumed, grabbed the binding artifact. He channeled a massive burst of his own hybrid energy into the device, not to destroy it but to cleanse and re-encode it. It was an agonizing process. The artifact's raw evil fought his soul, mixing the darkest memories of the Crimson Guard with the purest love of Valerie's ancestors inside his mind. He pushed back, pouring his sheer will to protect Valerie and humanity into the device. The vault filled with a blinding, cleansing light. The artifact stabilized, its glow turning a pure, benevolent crimson. When the light faded, Kai stumbled, weak but alive. He was changed. The raw, aggressive edge of the Pureblood essence had been tempered by the sacrifice. He was no longer just bound by the pact. He had become the living embodiment of the pact. Vance was neutralized. Jax had succeeded in disabling her exoskeleton, and Lyra restrained her, her obsession finally broken by her own failure. Vance was a defeated, raving scientist, her dream of creating a weaponized human army shattered. The Crimson Guard forces, sensing the massive stabilization of power, retreated into the shadows of the mountains, their leader Vorian still injured but alive, leaving the field to the victors. Valerie rushed to Kai, holding him tightly. She felt the change in him, the loss of some of her raw, untamed power, but the gain of an unbreakable, anchored hybrid soul. "You saved the vault. You saved the pact," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "We did," Kai corrected her, meeting her gaze. "The final piece of research, Seraphina. You can't separate the power from the soul." In the weeks that followed, the group worked to secure the vault. Vance was transferred to a maximum security non-Chronos black site, her secrets exposed and her organization dismantled. Lyra, her guilt assuaged by her final action, chose to stay, dedicating her life to guarding the vault. Jax, the ever-loyal shield, remained with them. Kai Ashton was no longer a human researcher, nor a pure vampire. He was the first successful hybrid of the Crimson Pact, the anchor of two worlds. He retained his human intellect and his medical knowledge, now supercharged by his enhanced longevity and pure blood power. He no longer felt the intense, overwhelming hunger but a controlled, sustainable need, a need he shared only with Valerie. Valerie Luna chose to remain above ground with Kai. She saw in him the future of the Pact, a life where her ancient duty could finally coexist with the simple, beautiful humanity that his memories had reminded her of. Together, they established a new hidden organization, using the vault's resources and Kai's modern network to police the delicate balance between the human world and the remnants of the ancient vampire factions. They were the Silent Guardians, bound by a shared past and an eternal, evolving love. Kai would never have those terrifying nightmares again, because his memories and Valerie's had truly merged. Every night he didn't dream her past, he dreamed their shared present and future, a crimson dawn for a new era of the Pact. The immediate danger from Dr. Vance had been contained, but the ancient threat lingered. Vorian, the leader of the Crimson Guard, had witnessed the hybrid's devastating power, the clean, perfect fusion of human intellect and pure blood strength, and had been repelled by it. He retreated with his surviving warriors, their silence in the mountains heavier than any battle cry. Kai's newly stabilized hybrid-enhanced senses confirmed their escape. Vorian was dangerously wounded but consumed by an intensified thirst for revenge. He would not stop until he could either corrupt the hybrid power for himself or eliminate it entirely. Vorian saw what he desired and failed to grasp it, Valerie stated, her warrior's resolve hardening. He is a wounded predator. He will challenge the code again, and he will use any means necessary to lure us out of the vault. Kai took immediate control of the vault's defenses. He used his modern technological expertise combined with Valerie's knowledge of the ancient runic defenses to create an impenetrable dual-layered perimeter, a complex web of magical sensors and digital alarms that made the vault secure against both high-tech and arcane infiltration. Jax and Lyra, their loyalty to the Pact solidified by Lyra's redemption, efficiently secured Dr. Seraphina Vance. Before handing her over to an off-the-grid neutral authority that Valerie's network trusted, Kai insisted on a final confrontation. He faced his former mentor in a secure holding chamber. There was no need for physical force. Kai's objective was a complete intellectual disarmament. Vance, stripped of her exoskeleton and her research, was a broken shell of a scientist, her fanaticism now muted by defeat. Kai used his hybrid abilities, the hyperfocus and the direct access to Kronos' network knowledge, to delve into Vance's remaining neural link. He didn't seek revenge, he sought security. He saw the root of her madness, a fundamental belief that pure blood power was the only key to save humanity from its own imperfections. Your genius was wasted, Seraphina, Kai said, his voice quiet but absolute. You could have used your intellect to heal and build, but you chose to conquer and weaponize. That was your design flaw. With a final, precise digital sequence, Kai remotely accessed and wiped every remaining piece of Pureblood-related data from Kronos' main servers, its backups and Vance's personal drives. The organization was crippled, its dangerous research utterly destroyed. Vance's decades-long obsession ended in a digital void. The successful defense and the dismantling of Kronos marked the true beginning of Kai and Valerie's new life and duty as the guardians of the Crimson Pact. They spent the following weeks in the vault, synthesizing the vast ancient knowledge with Kai's modern scientific understanding. Kai's primary research focused on the hybrid state. He confirmed that his purified blood, anchored by his human mind and soul, acted as a stabilizer for the powerful Pureblood essence. He now had access to the full range of abilities, superior speed, regeneration and longevity, without the crippling, consuming hunger. He was the living, breathing proof that the pact worked. Valerie, witnessing this evolution, formally recognized Kai as the co-guardian of the Crimson Pact. You are the bridge I always hoped for, Valerie told him, her amber eyes full of reverence and profound affection. You carry my lineage, but you are not chained by my past. You are the Crimson Dawn. The relationship between Kai and Valerie had deepened into an unwavering, soulful partnership. The Crimson Exchange was now complete, their pasts were merged and their future was inseparable. The intense tension had given way to a deep, abiding understanding. In a quiet moment, Valerie brought forth the most sacred and dangerous secret of the vault, Caius's counter-serum formula. It was the research of her human lover $300 years ago, designed to neutralize the Pureblood's immortality and raw power for a short, critical period, the ultimate failsafe. This is the last secret of the vault, Kai, Valerie said, handing him the fragile data scroll containing the complex formula. This formula is the power to defeat a Pureblood. It must never fall into the hands of Vorian or those who seek to eliminate the code. Kai accepted the responsibility. He understood that the serum was not a threat to their bond, but a symbol of the ultimate sacrifice made for peace. He immediately began to digitize and re-encrypt the ancient formula using a mix of runic magic and uncrackable quantum computing, burying the secret deeper than ever before. That night Kai had the final, peaceful memory echo. It wasn't a historical event but a feeling, the quiet contentment of the future. He saw himself and Valerie centuries from now, still together, watching over a world where the lines between human and ancient protector were blurred but stable. It was the culmination of $300 years of duty finally yielding to peace. He woke up to Valerie's gentle touch. Their eyes met and they shared the vision without a word. No more nightmares, Valerie whispered, a soft smile gracing her lips. Only the future we choose to build. The fragile peace was violently broken by Vorian. Unable to breach the vault, he launched a savage, coordinated attack on a remote human research outpost that was known to have loose ties to Kronos. Vorian's objective was clear, a spectacular, brutal violation of the code to lure Valerie out. He knew the Pureblood would not stand idly by while innocents were slaughtered. He challenges the code itself, Valerie stated, her face set in cold, warrior resolve. I must face him. We face him, Kai corrected her, securing his specialized gear, a blend of ancient armor and modern tech he had modified in the vault. He armed himself with tools designed not to kill, but to contain and neutralize Pureblood strength. He wants the Pureblood power, he will get the hybrid's defense. Lyra and Jax remained behind to guard the vault and the sacred counter-serum knowledge, understanding that the final confrontation required the unified agility and unique power of the two leaders. Kai and Valerie tracked Vorian to a vast, desolate ancient canyon, a setting that spoke of finality and primal power. Vorian and his remaining Crimson Guard warriors were waiting, their hunger amplified by their recent feeding and their rage. The Pureblood and the little pet. Vorian sneered. Your pact is weak, Valerie. True power is taken, not shared. The fight was brutal. Vorian's raw, chaotic power was immense, fueled by centuries of unrestrained malice. He fought savagely, aiming to separate the pair and seize the hybrid's power for his own. Vorian finally managed to trap Valerie under a pile of rubble with a powerful strike, temporarily neutralizing her. He turned his attention fully to Kai, his eyes burning with predatory obsession. You will give me your strength, hybrid. I will be the ultimate Pureblood. Vorian roared, launching a powerful energy blast toward Kai. Kai faced Vorian alone. This was the moment of his ultimate test. The battle not just for survival but for the soul of the pact. HFY moment, Kai didn't rely on a vampire's feral attack. He fought with calculated human strategy and surgical precision. He used his superior speed to evade Vorian's chaotic blasts, and he targeted the ancient vampire's psychological weakness, his arrogance. Kai led Vorian into a trap, a series of pre-planted magnetically shielded runes Jax had helped him set up. When Vorian lunged, the runes activated, briefly neutralizing his ability to control his power, causing a massive internal feedback loop. Vorian screamed in pain, momentarily crippled. Kai seized the opportunity. He didn't use a stake, he used a specially modified high-frequency sonic weapon designed with Vance's tech knowledge, aiming for the cervical nerve cluster, a scientific weakness he knew even purebloods shared. The attack was precise, non-lethal, but utterly incapacitating. Vorian collapsed, his primal rage extinguished, his power neutralized. The remaining Crimson Guard, seeing their leader defeated by the hybrid's superior strategy, scattered into the darkness, their faction broken forever. Valerie, freed from the rubble, rushed to Kai's side, embracing him fiercely. "You fought with wisdom, not just strength," she murmured. "You truly are the guardian, Kai." They secured Vorian, taking him back to the vault, where Valerie, with Kai's help, placed him in the old, original cryopod, the very one she had escaped from. This time, the stasis was permanent, a final solution that did not violate the code. Valerie then performed the final ritual of the pact, the severance. She used her power to permanently cut off Vorian's remaining influence on the world, ensuring the chaos of the Crimson Guard would never return. Years passed. Kai Ashton and Valerie Luna became the silent, eternal guardians of the Crimson Pact. They relocated the vault to an even more secure, digitally camouflaged location, burying the knowledge of the counter-serum so deep that only their shared hybrid essence could access it. They used their combined resources to create a subtle peacekeeping network, a silent agency that monitored both human biotech advancements and rogue vampire activity, ensuring the delicate balance remained intact. Kai, eternally young and vital, used his hybrid life to pursue his true passion, medical research, now with the power to truly revolutionize healing, all while staying connected to the world he chose to protect. Valerie, finally at peace, shed her role as the solitary warrior queen. She and Kai moved through the world as equals, bound not by a debt, but by a chosen, unwavering love and a shared, profound purpose. Kai's dreams were now clear, focused, and shared. There were no more nightmares, no more inherited grief, only the calm, steady presence of his eternal partner. The hybrid had saved his life and in doing so had saved the soul of the code.